Alright, so let's go ahead and do lesson 29. There's basically two concepts we're going to work with in this lesson, and that is multiplying fractions, which is pretty easy to multiply fractions as long as you don't mix up the rules for adding fractions. That's a different set of rules. But multiplying fractions is probably easier than adding fractions, I would say. Another thing we're going to talk about is reducing fractions by dividing by common factors. Alright, there's a couple little things I'm going to write over here to the side that you guys need to remember. The word of in math means multiply. Of is multiply. Okay? Make sure you remember that. The other thing I want you guys to remember is what I call the magic one. I don't know how many teachers use this because I kind of made it up myself, but there are actually ones that will help you. But these are hidden ones, and they magically appear if you remember to use them. So 4, right there, actually has a 1 right below it. So 4 over 1. Okay? So I wrote this right here to help you guys remember. 4 equals 4 over 1. Alright, that's called the magic one. So if you ever get stuck on a problem and you're like, I don't know what to do, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? See if adding a magic one somewhere might help you figure that problem out. Alright, and the last thing I want you guys to remember for this lesson is whatever is done to the top of a fraction has to be done to the bottom of a fraction. You guys are very fair people, so if I give someone a dojo point for answering a question correctly, then I should give another person a dojo point for answering a question correctly. So the same thing goes with fractions. Whatever you do to the top of a fraction, you have to do to the bottom of a fraction. So if you can remember those three things, that will help you a lot in this lesson. Okay, so here's a pizza right here. It's half gone. Alright? So this is half of a pizza, so let's write that down. 1/2. Now if you and your friend are there, and you're both hungry, and you only have half a pizza, so what are you going to tell your friend? Hey, I'll take half of the half. So what would that look like? That would look like a line right down the center, right? So your friend would get half of the half, and you would get half of the half. So what is half of a pizza? That would be 1/4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Half of 1/2 is 1/4. So let's do that in fraction terms. Remember over here, the word of means multiply. So 1/2 times 1/2. And when you multiply fractions, you go straight across. So you take the numerator times the numerator. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times, and then you take the denominator times the denominator. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? So half of a half is 1/4, or a quarter of a piece of pizza. Okay, so let's do another example problem. Go ahead, give me 2 or 3/5 of 1/2. Ready, go. So of, in this situation, means multiply. So we're going to take 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay? So 3/5 of 1/2 would be 3/10. Alright? Is that pretty easy? You guys are going to catch on quick to this. Okay, here's another one. If you want half of 2 pizzas, you have 2 whole pizzas. Can you see them? If you want half of it, clearly in your head you're going to figure out, oh yeah, that's 1. Mathematically, this is how it works. 1/2 of means times of 2. Wait a second, how do I multiply that? This is where we get to our second little trick. Magic 1. Remember 4 equals 4 over 1? So if you don't know how to make this into a fraction, remember, you can magically put a 1 right below it. Okay? Whole numbers have magic 1s right below them. Okay, so this is 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 over 2. Remember, anything divided by itself, top divided by bottom, 2 divided by 2 equals 1. which is what we got right there. So let's try a different problem. Let's try 4 times 3/4. Wait, Mr. Mazan, I can't do this. Let me do magic for you. Magically, I'm going to put a 1 below. Then you take numerator times numerator. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. So that's going to be 12 over 4. And then you guys know the top divided by bottom. I probably should have wrote that little thing over here. Top divided by bottom. Okay? So 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. Okay? Any questions on that? Key thing though, magic 1. Anytime you have a whole number, put that magic 1 right below. Okay, so you guys know how to multiply fractions. If there's a whole number that you're multiplying by a fraction, use the magic 1. So let's go ahead and erase this. Enough room there. Alright, let's talk about reducing fractions by dividing by common factors. So I think we're on example number 5 now. So if you want to reduce, let's say 12, let's go 16ths. If you look at 12 and 16, you know that both of those have a common factor of 4. Real quick in your head. 4, 8, 12, 16. They both have a common factor of 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. So if they have a common factor, you're gonna what are we doing? Reducing fractions by dividing by common factors. Now we're gonna come over here to our little rule box that we have. Okay, whatever is done to the top of a fraction must be done to the bottom. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top of this fraction and I'm going to divide by our common factor of 4. Okay, so 12 divided by 4, and it says whatever is done to the top has to be done to the bottom. So I'm going to take 16 and also divide that by 4. That is a rule. You can always use that rule. Whatever is done to the top has to be done to the bottom. When you're talking fractions, 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, so 12/16 reduces to 3/4. Okay, let's just go ahead and do another one. Let's do 35 divided by 49, or 35/49. Okay, so if you remember your factors of 7, real quick, you can realize, oh, those are both factors of 7. So let's write out some multiples of 7. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and 49. Yep, they're both multiples of 7. So 7 is the common factor. So we're going to take 35 divided by 7. Okay? And if you divide the top by 7, then you're going to divide the bottom by 7. 49 divided by 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 49 divided by 7 is 7. So that's going to reduce to 5/7. A lot easier to work with 5/7 than 35/49. Okay, sometimes when you're multiplying fractions, so we're on example 7 right here. Sometimes when you're multiplying fractions, let's say 3/4 of, let's say 2/5, you're going to get a huge number and you're going to want to reduce the fraction. So let's go ahead and do this. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20. So 6/20. Now you guys already know how to multiply fractions, but let's reduce this fraction. I know that those have a common factor. Let's go ahead and divide the top by 2. You know that's going to divide by 2, and the bottom by 2. Okay, how do I know they're going to divide by 2? Because they're both even. Okay, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, so 6/20 reduced to 3/10. So 3/4 of 2/5 is 3/10. All right. So there's 2 steps in there. You have to multiply the fractions, and once you get your answer, you have to reduce the fraction by dividing by a common factor. And you'll get 3/10.